Hello, my name is Momo Chavez from Nonviolence International NY, and today I am going to be discussing television's naturalization of violence.
In case of an emergency, such as our fuel tanks explode and we crash like a fiery ball into the sea.
Neato, cool, Fabu.
The naturalization of violence in American media is a trend that we have long since become accustomed to, from slapstick cartoons to news stories. As such, we have subsequently normalized two branches of violence, that which is reality and that which is fantasy-based. It's become commonplace to turn on the TV and anticipate a news story centered on war or covering criminal activity, mirroring a similar likelihood of switching to a children's channel and observing cartoon characters engaging in violent behaviors.
Hey, the twerp's screaming, and I'm not there to cause it.
In this video, I want to discuss the impacts of our long-term and widespread exposure to explicit violent video material, and what we can do to increase awareness over insensitive and potentially damaging television output. Watching physical conflict on screen has been related to subsequent aggression and desensitization to violence.
It's just a prank.
So you all made me go through all this just for a stupid prank?
It's important to note that I'm not debating the causality of this issue. It doesn't necessarily cause increased aggression, but exposure to violent conduct in entertainment does run the risk of increasing the likelihood of hostile behavior in viewers.
Not bad, but it could go a little heavier on the cartoon violence.
Audiences, particularly of the younger demographic, may attempt to imitate violent attitudes and actions displayed on screen, particularly if they are predisposed to aggression. This is dependent on the viewer's ability to distinguish between fantasy and reality, as well as their individual ability to critically evaluate the depiction of violence within a social and moral framework. In other words, are we making sure that younger viewers are able to discern which on-screen behavior is complying with the socially accepted moral code? Furthermore, there is a large concern arising that the overabundance of news reporting regarding suicides, homicides, and violent criminal activity could result in imitation of copycat action by certain viewers. Again, it's important to note that external influences contribute to the recreation of this violent behavior, but it must be reinforced that vulnerability to violent news sources nonetheless increases the risk. News broadcasts have been discovered to significantly shape public opinion, consequently leaving a profound impact on the perception of crime. Essentially, television programs are desensitizing the public perception of violence via repeated exposure.
That's when we will be able to provide some more information with the extent of injuries and information on the suspect.
This is similarly displayed through children's cartoons, which comedically represent acts of violence.
I'll check his pulse.
Thus decreasing the severity of violent behavior and creating the notion that conflict isn't accompanied by consequences. This issue is steadily gaining more attention and awareness. We are slowly improving our representation of violence on screen. In terms of public opinion, we are beginning to recognize the potential dangers that violence in the media can cause, specifically in terms of assisting in initiating copycat behaviors and creating unclear representations of violence.
I think the messages take the stairs. The message is, when you're in an elevator, there's a camera.
It is crucial that we evaluate the violence that we see in media to avoid perpetuating damaging depictions and to ensure that we are not advocating aggressive values and conflict, particularly in our younger demographic. As such, we are making some of these changes directed at younger audiences, which can be observed through the shift in tones in cartoons previously relied heavily on conflict as a means to drive the plot, such as Tom and Jerry, to contemporary cartoons that concentrate more on character building.
I now believe true strength is found in vulnerability, in forgiveness, in love.
Let's focus on promoting more ethical and peaceful behavior. So, what improvements do we need to start seeing, and what can we do about it? Television media is continuing to perpetuate a misrepresentation of violence by either over-reporting explicit images or trivializing aggressive acts through comedy.
We'd love to have you work in the fields with us.
Work in the field?
That's part of that.
Senator, I'm a house.
We need to inquire into a more in-depth analysis of the manner in which we are characterizing both perpetrators and victims to refrain from distorting reality. We need to encourage an open dialogue with children over media, as well as more critical evaluation of on-screen images. The solution that is currently being offered on-screen to violence is more violence.
What was your reaction when you saw that?
Just like go punch him as soon as I could.
Frequently with no other options being observed or taught.
Well, that's all it took.
Moreover, the escalation of violence is frequently amalgamated with anger and sometimes even hatred. We need to be illustrating that conflict can be resolved through peace and mediation, as well as an understanding of one another's differences.
Stop! You don't need to fight! This isn't you! You're not a monster anymore!
As a whole, we need more comprehensive education and awareness on the impacts of violence on screen to avoid perpetuating fear and cultivating a culture of conflict. Please don't hesitate to discuss with us in the comments below with your thoughts on this issue, and thank you so much for watching.